Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibhidinitam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadaatatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhurida Jana. Let us resume our discussion on Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual discourses with his intimate devotees on 22nd of February 1885 in the premises of Dakshineshwar on a Sunday following the birthday celebration of Sri Ramakrishna that year. We know that Sri Ramakrishna was especially affectionate to his householder devotees. Though he is equally available for monks and householders, yet he was aware that the householders are in a more difficult situation because they have to discharge lot of household duties, and at the same time they are supposed to fix their mind on God, which is difficult but not impossible. See, he knew that the householder devotees are engaged in various office works on weekdays, so it will not be possible for them to take holidays, take leave and come to Dakshineshwar to attend his birthday celebration. So he arranged the birthday celebration may be done for all on the following Sunday, and that tradition is still being followed at Belur Math. In Belur Math, Sri Ramakrishna's birthday is celebrated twice, one on the date as per the almanac, Falgun Dvitiya, and on the following Sunday. If the date coincides, then also the following Sunday is celebrated for the public, because on that day, because of huge crowd, the temple is remained open even during the noon time. Only one exception in the whole calendar year. The temple timings has changed as per the convenience of the devotees. So we have to understand from this particular event that how much concerned Sri Ramakrishna was for the householders. This is a special message. Nowhere in the world, in the history of the saints and seers, we have seen that a full-fledged sannyasin, having done Bidija home and embracing sannyas initiation, is continuing to remain in the householder's life and with the company of the wife till the last day of his life. So he gives a special message that the goal of life is neither to become monk or a householder. The goal of life is to realize God, and the central requirement for everyone is Tyaga, renunciation. Tyaga does not mean a ritual, an outward show. Tyaga means detachment. Detachment from what? Detachment from the worldly enjoyments of life. There are two dimensions of enjoyment. One is secular, another is spiritual. One is that we enjoy with the world outside, and the other we experience with the God within. So happiness is one, whether you enjoy it outside or inside. That is called Anand, joy, bliss. Bliss has one definition, and that is its infinite dimension. Whatever is limitless, infinite, unbounded, that is joy. Wherever there is limitation, there is binding, that is far from bliss. This is one definition. In the world, whatever packages we receive for enjoyment, everything is limited. Limited by time, limited by our capacity, limited by the environment, limited by the constraint, and so on. Only the spiritual bliss has no bounds. That's why that has been earmarked as the common goal for all, be you a householder or a sannyasin or brahmacharin. The singular goal for everyone, because that is our nature. Our nature is Sat Chit Anand, knowledge absolute, existence absolute, bliss absolute. So till we touch that dimension of life, that absolute, unbounded, we are not satiated, we are not contented, we cannot be. So we will become contented when we reach that state, and that is called the ultimate realization, that is called God realization. So here Sri Ramakrishna is giving the uniform goal for both, but two different methods of approach. That is important. The sannyasins have one way to reach the goal, while the householders have a different way. So depending on your station of life, you have to follow that prescription. There cannot be a uniform prescription for all patients. Depending on the condition and background of the patient, the doctors give variable prescriptions. Patients have to follow. A patient with heart problem and requiring a stomach disorder will have different line of management than a patient who does not have heart problem. So the doctors know what drugs will suit to the condition of the patient. Similarly, here we find on this interaction, Sri Ramakrishna said certain instructions to Narnindanath and other young disciples who were on the path of renunciation. They were to become monks. So certain instructions were given to him, to them. Whereas in that congregation he had other householder devotees as well, like Surendranath Mitra, whom Sri Ramakrishna used to love very dearly. Now he looked at Surendranath affectionately and he gave him some simple advice. Now sometimes his advice is too simple to be implemented, because we, due to our peculiar complicated system of thought, we are not happy with a simple solution. There is a statement of fact. If a solution is simple, we hardly believe. So how it can be? We want a difficult, a long way of prescription. This happens in the modern medical science also. We have found very competent doctors giving the least drugs, 1 or 2. People are not convinced. So some people make a long list of drugs. So the patients are happy. Because the drugs are quite a number of drugs, the disease will be cured. But if 1 or 2 drugs are specified, they hesitate. They don't believe. It is due to because of our peculiar concern, this complication of mind. Here we find, for example, the Surendranath Mitra comes here, and looking at him, his advice to him was come here now and then. That's all. He did not tell him to practice long hours of meditation or spend a huge amount or go to pilgrimage, go to mountains, do pranayama, nothing. He says, come now, that too not regularly. He didn't tell him to come daily. Come now and then as per your convenience. As per your convenience, come now and then. Sri Ramakrishna Surendra के प्रति बीच बीच में आते जाना. That's all. बीच बीच में आते जाना. Now let us ask ourselves, are we convinced with this way of spiritual practice? We don't believe. बीच बीच में आते जाने से सब कुछ हो जाएगा. How is it possible? भगवान को प्राप्त करने के लिए हमें साधन भजन करना पड़ेगा, जप ध्यान करना पड़ेगा, तपस करना पड़ेगा, उपवास करना पड़ेगा. बीच बीच में आते जाने से कैसे होता? ये संभव नहीं है. अगर होता तो भक्तगण बीच बीच आना जाना करते, भगवान लाभ कर लेते. But unfortunately, the Maya deludes our mind. Though the solution is very simple, we are reluctant to accept it. Nevertheless, solution remains as it is. And Sri Ramakrishna has justified his way of management. He says that his guru Totapuri used to say that in order to keep a metal vessel shining, you have to wash it regularly. That is necessary. लोटा रोज रगड़ना चाहिए, नहीं तो मैला पड़ जाएगा. साधु संग सदैव ही आवश्यक है. बीच बीच में आने जाने से क्या होगा? होली कंपनी, साधु संग, sadhu parivesh. When you come to a holy place, you breathe holiness there. Holiness is radiated in that place. So when you come from your stations, then you are recharged with holiness. When you have a piece of mobile phone and it gets this exhausted, it gets discharged. In order to make it active, you have to keep it recharging regularly. You have to plug in for some time. at regular intervals, always the mobile gets discharged. Similarly, our mind becomes contaminated with the environment of the world, with the attractions of the worldly pleasures. In order to restore the mind towards its original position, we have to get it discharged with the holy company now and then. This is the prescription there which we discussed at length. Then he said, the two distinct way of spiritual practice for the monks and the householders. He says for the monks and nuns, they have a total renunciation. They have to stay away from the lust and wealth. This with no this mincing of words, very clearly he says, very emphatically he says, the renunciation of woman and gold is for sannyasin. कामिनी कांचन का त्याग सन्यासी के लिए है, तुम लोगों के लिए यह नहीं. So let us make it very clear. Whoever is the spiritual aspirant, either monk or householder, they have a common goal to realize God in this very life, when for all. And they have a common way, that is renunciation. There is no compromise. Tyage naike amritatva manashuhu. This is the scripture says. By renunciation alone, the immortality is attained. That is the formula. There is no, we should not have any this confusion in this matter. The householders need not think that they don't have to follow the path of renunciation. What is the difference? The sannyasins will practice this renunciation both outwardly and inwardly. Their external life should be physically away from women and wealth. Physical separation, samajik duri, parishkar. There is no ambiguity. And of course, internally also they should remain detached in their mind. Otherwise, it becomes a debauchery. They may physically be away from women and gold, but if you go on meditate of women and gold, then it is counterproductive. This is also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Vishaya benivartante niraharasya dehina raso varjam rasapyasya param drishtva nivartate. The person who has physically stayed away from Vishaya, worldly enjoyments, but he goes on thinking of them, is far from the goal. He may return in the forest or in the Himalayas, away from the society, away from women and gold or whatever, but if you go on thinking of the Vishaya, then it is counterproductive. You are not going to get anywhere. So that will not work. Both internally and externally renunciation is prescribed for the sannyasins. Whereas for the householders, they have to practice renunciation inside. There is no harm if they stay with woman and gold. In fact, that is the way of their station of life. They have to remain with money and women. So what they have to do? They may remain, there is no harm, but they have to remain unattached, not attached to them. Attachment means they cannot live without it. That is attachment. Attachment is you cannot dispense with it. You are dependent on it. That is attachment. So in order that you remain detached, practice detachment now and then. That is the secret. If you are not able to remain detached continuously, at least periodically you stay away for some short period of time. And that periodic detachment will gradually infuse the permanent detachment. Goal is permanent detachment. You may remain in the world, but it should not be of the world. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a popular example. There is no harm if a boat plies on the water. There is water everywhere. The boat, there is no harm. Boat will float. But if water enters into the boat will be drowned. No harm if water stays all around the boat. But if water starts entering into the boat will be drowned. Similarly, there is no harm if the householder stay in the world, but if worldliness penetrates into the householder's mind, then he will be drowned in the worldliness. Then he cannot realize God. The goal should be fixed. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna told Surendranath very clearly, this is the way you have to live. And then he परिष्कार बता दिया that this way of getting rid of women and gold is not for you. Householders they are not required to stay away. They can stay in the world with whatever environment they have. But now and then you should go into solitude and call on God with a yearning heart. This is the way, saving factor. If you go on continuously stay in the world, then you'll be drowned. So what is the way out? You have to now and then come out, make some provision and pray in solitude. And that also you need not come out and go to a place of enjoyment. That is ekanta bas. You should come out even for a short time. You can go to a place where you can be in seclusion. You can be alone, not with the party. You are alone and you pray to God sincerely with a yearning of heart. परिष्कार बताया, एकांत वास करना चाहिए और आंतरिक भगवान को प्रार्थना करना चाहिए. And your renunciation should be mental. It's a clear distinction. For a sannyasin, it should be both physical and mental, both. For a householder, it is only mental renunciation. तुम लोग बीच बीच में निर्जन में जाना और उन्हें व्याकुल होकर पुकारना. तुम लोग मन में त्याग करना. Now, it is easier said than done. You can understand that is that is sannyasin when he stays away from the worldly pleasures, that is not the solution of his life. Mentally, they have to be detached, and it's not an easy task. Even though they are physically detached from woman and gold, but to take their mind away from woman and gold is not an easy job. In fact, that is the sadhana of a sannyasin. It's a very, very difficult process to remain pure, staying away, detached from the worldly pleasures. It is extremely difficult. Now the question comes, if it is so difficult for a sannyasin to remain detached mentally while staying away physically, then what would be the condition of the householders who are staying with woman and gold and trying to remain detached? It will be almost impossible. Please think very deeply. If this job is so difficult, even those who are away, they are making falters, they are falling, even sannyasins. So if that is the condition of the sannyasin, then what to talk of householders? They are within, they are immersed in this worldly pleasures, worldly enjoyment, worldly environment. Then how they can remain detached mentally? It is very easy to say, remain mentally detached. How it can be done? That secret Sri Ramakrishna is revealing. That's why the householders must read this Kathamrita very minutely, very deeply, and then understanding the salient features should try to implement in their life in order to realize God here and now, in this life. That is the goal. So he will reveal, he is telling that it is difficult but not impossible, but we have to understand where is the difficulty. Difficulty is the householders remaining in the worldly environment but wants to stay away from the worldly attachments. That solution he is giving here. And he is acknowledging that it is not easy. First of all, he acknowledges. But we should also acknowledge. We sport as a brave person, nothing will happen. But that is wrong. We have to remain extremely careful and cautious, knowing that it is not an easy job. You should be serious about our life. When you think deeply, you will find how more difficult it is to remain in the world, but to remain out of world. So what is the solution he is giving here? Unless a devotee is of the heroic type, he cannot pay attention to both God and the world. It is not possible unless a person is heroic. भक्त वीर हुए बिना भगवान तथा संसार दोनों ओर ध्यान नहीं रख सकता है. For sannyasins, the job is easy. They don't have to take care of any worldly activities. संसार नहीं करना है, उनके लिए सिर्फ भगवान को ही पुकारना है. लेकिन संसारियों के लिए संसार को भी देखना पड़ेगा, भगवान को भी ध्यान करना पड़ेगा. वो श्री रामकृष्ण कहते ये कोई आसान बात नहीं है. आप लोग करके देखो, ये कोई हल्कापन से ना लिया जाए, ये आसान बात नहीं है. लेकिन जो श्री रामकृष्ण कहते हैं वो अगर हम माने तो ये आसान हो जाएगा. दिस इज़ वाई इट इज़ इम्पॉर्टेंट. इट इज़ ए मैनुअल ऑफ प्रैक्टिकल गाइड बुक ऑफ स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू हैव टू एक्नॉलेज दैट इट इज़ नॉट एन ईजी टास्क to remain in the world and also to get your mind detached from the world. Now Sri Ramakrishna is given an example that it has been possible, it is possible, but he gives a popular example of King Janaka. Janaka is Rajarshi, is giving that example here. King Janaka lived a householder's life. Janaka was a king. He is called Rajarshi, Raja cha, Rishi cha. He was a king managing an entire empire, administrative duties. At the same time, he was a man of God. He was Guru of Shukadeva Goswami. Vyasadeva, the composer of the Brahma Sutras, who divided the Vedas, and this Vyasadeva, when he wanted to get his son Shukadeva, Akumar Brahmachari, to the knowledge of Brahman, he sent him to King Janaka. He didn't teach him. He sent him to King Janaka to learn Brahma Vidya. So, first of all, Shukadeva thought he is a householder. What will he learn? No, you go there. When he went there, he found that he is a man of Brahman, realized soul, though he is managing a household. Not only a household, a kingdom is managing. So here Sri Ramakrishna says he used to wield two swords on his two hands, jnana and karma. And then what was the secret? How could he do it? That we must understand. Janaka first realized God and then entered into the householder's life. In our case, we have not realized God, but we think that remaining in the world will attain God automatically. That is wrong. This is the mistake we are making. King Janaka, becoming King Janaka is not that easy. He did not enter into the worldly life before he realized God. So, we are forced in the worldly life. So, we cannot equate ourselves with King Janaka. King Janaka will be that person who has realized God and then entered into the world. That is not our case. So, Sri Ramakrishna clearly saying here that he lived a householder's life only after attaining perfection through austerity and prayer. ये बात है. जनका फर्स्ट हैड तपस्या, प्रार्थना, भगवान दर्शन कर लिया, भगवान लाभ कर लिया, उसके बाद वो राजत्व संभालने गया, तो देयर इज ऑल राइट. So then what happened? Then he fenced with two swords, the one of knowledge and the other of action. It was possible for him because he was a realized soul. जनक राजा साधन भजन के बाद, आफ्टर नॉट बिफोर, सिद्ध होकर संसार में रहे थे. ये समझने की बात है. वे दो तलवारें घुमाते थे, ज्ञान और कर्म. कर्म करने से क्या होता है? व्हाट इज हार्म इन डूइंग वर्क? व्हेन यू डू वर्क, then we get bound by the fruits of the work. Every action will have a reaction by law. So when you do not do any work, there is no reaction. But when you do any action, there will be reaction, and the reaction will be twofold, good or bad, merit or demerit. And in order to, and whoever works has to be the fruit of the work. जो उगेगा उसका फल लेना पड़ेगा. He who sows must reap the harvest. Who sows must reap, they say, and cause must bring the sure effect. कोई कार्य होगा उसका फल होगा. फल दो प्रकार, अच्छा बुरा. अच्छा बुरा फल भोगने के लिए हमें रहना पड़ेगा. We get bound. Whenever we work, we get bound by the fruits of action. And when you are in the world, you have to work. And you are necessarily bound by its fruits of action. So it is an inevitable chain. When you come to the world, duties with an inevitable chain. अनिवार्य है फंस जाना. But if you have jnana, if you have the real knowledge, then you are able to disassociate yourself from the fruit of action. The fruit of action becomes bound because of one reason, the thought of me and mine, aham mameti. I am the doer and I am the enjoyer. This is the system. थोड़ा ये पानी मंगाई. So this thought, when I do the work, I feel that I am the doer, and whatever fruits will come, I will enjoy. That is our way of doing any work. When I am studying, I said I am the student, and the good marks will belong to me, not to others. No student will share his marks with others. Marks belong to him or her. It's personal credit. Whatever work we do, we earn money for ourselves. So whatever we do for ourselves, that binds us down. But if you can detach yourself, your ego, from the work, then you are same. So when you can do the work, detaching your ego, that is jnana, that is knowledge, which is true, which is reality. ये दुनिया में कर्म करने वाला एकमात्र परमात्मा है. ये हमारा गलतफहमी है, हमारा ज्ञान है, ये समझना कि मैं करता हूँ. दिस इज द रूट ऑफ ऑल प्रॉब्लम. सारे समस्या का जड़ यह अज्ञान है कि मैं करता हूँ. यह अज्ञान है. कर्म करते वक्त अगर हम सोचें कि मैं करता नहीं हूँ, वो है ज्ञान. जनक राजा का वो ज्ञान था. वो सारे राजत्व संभालते थे, बट कभी ये नहीं समझा ये मेरा है. जब एक बार मिथिला नगरी में आग लग गया. जनक राजा है, मिथिलापुरी का राजा है, तो सबने भागदौड़ करना चालू कर दिया. Naturally, there is a fire. Everybody started running helter skelter. तो जनक राजा शांत होकर बैठे हैं. किसी ने बताया, महाराज चारों ओर आग लग गया. उन्होंने कहा, मिथिलायाम प्रदीप्तायाम न मे दह्यति कंचन. If the whole Mithila Nagari is burned to ashes, I am not burnt, I am different. I do not belong to this land, neither it is mine. It belongs to God, God will take care. I need not be scared. That is his attitude. When you do the work as an instrument in his hand and remain detached from the fruit of action. If the work yields good fruit, good harvest, that belongs to the master, and if the work becomes of any bad result, that belongs to the harvest. You are not affected. If the work can be done with this attitude, if कर्म इस ज्ञान का साथ किया जाए, तब कर्म हमारे मोक्ष का कारण बनता है. When work is done with this spirit of detachment, then it becomes a means for liberation. Otherwise, it becomes a means of bondage. That's why it is warned. In the world you get bound. You do not get bound by your work. You get bound by your attitude to do the work. किस मानसिकता से कर्म किया जा रहा है, उसके ऊपर बंधन और मोक्ष डिपेंडेंट है. Janak Raja, let's give the example, he used to do the work, remain detached. That's why it didn't affect. So Sri Ramakrishna says, in that case, the person enjoys the world. He works with joy because he is not bound. He sees God everywhere and is a life of blessed experience. Here it is told like that. Now, this attitude cannot fall from heaven. Remaining in the world, you cannot develop this attitude. In order to imbibe this attitude of detachment, one has to return from the world now and then. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, बीच बीच में आते जाना. बीच बीच में आते जाना. Frequent. बीच बीच में आए. हम लोग भी कहते हैं, भक्तगण को कहते हैं, बीच बीच में मठ में आना, मंदिर में आना, ताकि भगवान का पास कुछ समय बैठने से मन शांत होता है. But when you go to the world, the worldly activities, we find there is so much of work aligned, we forget. And when we forget, we get bound. And more we are bound, more we find less time to come. And finally you are completely detached, and then bound and frustrated, you end up with folly. That is a tragic end of our householder devotees. They know everything, but because they ignore this golden advice, one golden advice Sri Ramakrishna says, not much, one advice, बीच बीच में आते जाना. Visit frequently, now and then, periodically. Frequently भी नहीं बताया. Visit periodically as per your convenience, but that does not mean once in 20 years. Whatever is convenience, as per your convenience, you frequent visit, then your mind will be poised, tuned. Now how will you know that when to come? When you find your mind is disturbed, you are not able to concentrate on your work, you are not feeling happy. You check your life. If worldly environment gives you continuous joy, you need not come. Remain there. You cannot become happy in the world necessarily by law, because yo vai bhuma tat sukham nalpe sukham asti. Every worldly enjoyment is limited by time and capacity and infrastructure and environment. And when you are baffled, then your desire for enjoyment has increased and you feel frustration. At that time, come to the mud, come to God. That's why in every age, God is inviting, come, all ye that are heavily laden. This is the call of Jesus Christ for his householder devotees. Oh, come ye, all that are heavily laden, come unto me, I will give you rest. He is calling Jesus Christ. The same God is now calling Sri Ramakrishna, बीच बीच में आते जाना. So this is necessary, because then we will be able to do the work with knowledge. Otherwise, work will be done with ignorance and we get further bound. And he gives an example of Janak Raja that he enjoyed. So since we are not, we cannot equate ourselves to Janak Raja, we cannot work with jnana, because we have not entered into the life with jnana. We have to understand what is our limitation, why we are not able to perform as King Janaka, because Janaka entered into the world having attained knowledge and we are not. So what is our way out? Our way out is given by Chaitanya Dev. That has been mentioned by Sri Ramakrishna here. Our method of prescription has been given to Chaitanya Dev, which is authenticated by Sri Ramakrishna in this age. And he gives threefold solutions. Chaitanya Dev, his method of prescription is threefold. Here Sri Ramakrishna has mentioned that. For you, for us, for Surendranath Mitra and others in this age who cannot become Jagrata, for you, what is the way out? Chaitanya said, the disciplines to be practiced are threefold discipline. क्या करना है चैतन्य देव बता दिया. Kindness to living beings, service to the devotees and chanting the name of God. 3 गोलियां लेना है, 3 प्रकार का दवा प्रिस्क्रिप्शन में बताया. तुम्हारे लिए चैतन्य देव ने जो कहा था, जीवों पर दया, भक्तों की सेवा और नाम संकीर्तन. 3 गोलियां. जीवों पर दया, भक्तों की सेवा और नाम संकीर्तन. बी काइंड टू अदर क्रीचर्स. निस्वार्थी बनो. Do something for others. As Swami Vivekananda says, they alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. जीवों पर दया करो. Chaitanya Dev said, be kind. Feel sympathy for those who are poor, those who are have-nots, those who are in distress. Extend your hand of cooperation as far as possible. Because this is your spiritual practice. You have to understand, you are doing it for your purpose. You are not doing a favor. You are not doing a favor to anybody. You are helping others as your spiritual practice to become free. When you take a medicine, you are not doing a favor to the drug company. You are taking medicine for your own health. Let us not make this mistake. When a patient takes a drug, he should not feel that he is making a great favor to the drug company. He is taking a drug for his own benefit. Who the hell is telling him to take medicine? Don't take. You have to take the medicine for your benefit. So you should be thankful to the drug company for supplying the medicine. That's why Sri Swami Vivekananda says, do not take 5 cents in your hand and stand on a pedestal and say, here my poor man. Feel thankful to the poor man because he has given you opportunity to exercise your power of benevolence and become free. आपको मुक्त करने के लिए गरीब आपको पास से दान ले रहे हैं. आपको धन्यता होना. It is the giver who is blessed, not the deceiver. This has to be understood. जो देने वाला है वही धन्य है, लेने वाला नहीं. और जब हम देते हैं हम सोचते हैं बहुत अच्छा कर लिया. We expect a thank you. No thank you. You should be thankful that the person helped you to exercise your power of benevolence and to make you free. So first prescription, first goli क्या हुआ? Help others as far as possible. Don't make a loan and give a charity. Whatever is possible for you, that attitude is necessary, not the amount. Doesn't matter what is the dimension of your figure in the check. Whatever you give with grace. Shraddhaya deyam, ashraddhaya deyam. With grace, with respect, with thanks, offer. Number 1. Then भक्तों की सेवा. अर्थात क्या है? That those who are devotees, those who are holy people, those who are good, then you have to make company, holy company necessary. जैसे बताया बीच बीच में आने जाना, that is necessary. गरीबों को सेवा करो, बीच बीच में भक्तों के साथ संग करो. होली कंपनी बार बार बोल रहे हैं. तृतीय क्या बताया? नाम संकीर्तन. रिपीट द नेम ऑफ गॉड. इट्स नॉट ए टॉल ऑर्डर. To help others, when you help others, it always need not be financial help. You can help in so many ways. But do something for others and constantly be in holy company. And thirdly, repeat the name of God. This is the way out of householders. They cannot become like Janak Raja, but if they follow these three simple steps, then they can realize God in this very life. Sri Ramakrishna is carrying this conversation forward, which we'll discuss at length in our next Sunday class. Niranjanam nityam anantarupam bhaktanukampa dhrita vigraham vai Ishavataram parameshamidyam tam Ramakrishnam shirasa namama. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. We close now with the chanting of the Lord in chorus. Please join with me. Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om. Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om. Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om. Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om. Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om. Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om. Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om. Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om. Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om. Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om Ramakrishna, Hari Om.